Hello and welcome to another Döhle Yachts coffee break. My name is Joe Assail and today I'm joined by our Fleet Statutory Manager, Ben Geary.
Hey guys.
We want to talk to you in today's coffee break about the difference between class and flag. So this is something that we've spoken on kind of extensively in our careers. Ben is ex-classification Sati, I'm ex-flag, and we used to speak on this a lot in our respective roles and did a lot of work together. But let's kind of dive into a little bit of the basics here. So let's talk from each of our respective backgrounds. So Ben, why don't you kick us off with what is class?
So class, basically, the easiest and simplest way to describe it is it looks after the asset. Okay, so you're looking at the strengths of the structure of it. You're looking at the engineering, the propulsion, the electrical, the anchoring, mooring equipment, all the bits that make up the component of that asset is basically where class come into their own.
Okay, so then from a flag perspective, they are responsible for the application or implementation of the international conventions that are applicable to a ship that trades internationally or globally. So these come from two sources: the Maritime Labour Organisation, who is responsible for the Maritime Labour Convention, or the MLC 2006, and of course the IMO, the International Maritime Organisation, where all of the other conventions you would have heard of, SOLAS, Loadline, MARPOL, SCCW, etc., come from. So now that we've kind of clarified where that split is, Ben, do we need class? If flag are looking after all those international conventions, how does class fit into that?
The question more comes back to how are you going to operate the vessel? Okay, so if you're looking to operate that vessel commercially, then if you look in there, say the reg codes and others, they kind of ask you to have a classification to look at structure, to look at those fundamental parts of the asset, because it reassures that, and it's part of the convention with the IMO, and it ties in nicely. If you are looking to run the vessel as privately, so as a pleasure vessel, then in the strictest sense, not necessarily do you need to have a class certificate.
Caveat, we are not condoning running a large yacht without a classification started. There are vessels that do this. I think we're talking from a strictly academic
We're looking
perspective.
at the fundamentally, if you were to take it back to basics.
Yeah. You have to have a flag. So I'll jump straight in that with on the other side. So if you are trading internationally, you have to have a flag. If you are a domestically operated vessel, I would argue you're probably not a large yacht, so you're not really kind of involved in this discussion. But if you are an internationally trading vessel, you have to be registered with a flag state. And that's where a lot of these different terminologies come in, because a flag state, an administration, a registry, they're all the same thing. They all mean one and the same. It's the flag that flies off the back of the boat. It's where your port of registry is. It's the administration who regulates the way in which those international rules are applicable. So why, Ben, are class and flag so kind of intrinsically linked? Okay, why is it that we always talk about class and flag in the same breath?
Again, I mean, you kind of looked into, they work hand in hand. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the class rules, there are elements of fire safety, there are elements of LSA, there are other bits that kind of work fundamentally with the flag requirements. Then you've got what, people always talk about flag and class together, is because there's an awful lot of delegation between them. Okay, so different flags will delegate different amounts of work or different elements of the rules to that class society. So that's why they're integrated so much.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point, because traditionally the shipping administration of a country would be a very large organization. The civil service of back in bygone eras would have been a very large machine with a lot of surveyors, with a huge amount of expertise. I mean, that's certainly how the UK built a reputation as a modern seafaring nation. In more recent years, as we've generated or we've seen the proliferation of open registries, those registries don't have that same level of expertise or worldwide network of surveyors. So if I was a very small Pacific Island nation who ran a flag, I don't have surveyors in the south of France to go and see my yachts. Okay, so what I do is I delegate to the Classification Society. So there are flags that will delegate everything to the Classification Society.
Yeah.
So there will be some flags that choose to give everything. So when you're, for example, Lloyd's Register surveyor comes on board, they are doing the role of both the flag state and the Classification Society. And I think that's where we lose a little bit of kind of distinction and why some people get confused, because you may get a certificate for your MARPOL certificates. You may get an oily water, your IOPP certificate from Lloyd's Register, but it actually says on the top of it, on behalf of insert flag.
Indeed.
Okay, so I think that's where maybe some of this this confusion comes in. That level of delegation is one of probably many items that actually, when you're choosing a class and a flag from a technical perspective, why there are so many kind of subtleties in choosing your flag. So when we choose which flag we have or which classification society we have, it puts us down a certain road. Mm-hmm. So depends on your type of vessel. I mean, you know, if we've got different layers of intricacy on a vessel, if it's a particularly complex build, you know, we may want to choose different classification societies.
Yeah, I mean, you know, every classification society and every flag has its strengths and weaknesses. You know, as you look into the future, and we're looking at different fuels, so you've got ammonia, you've got hydrogen, we've got batteries. We're looking at going to the polar regions. We're looking at passenger ship notations. You know, some class societies are more suited to, let's say, different fuels than others, and some may have more passenger ship experience than others. You know, and so it's not just a quick assumption of which class society is going to be an asset, which yards use what. You need to look at the class society for your project. You know, what are you actually doing with your project? Where are you operating your project? What fuels are you going to use? How big is it going to be? Number of people? Because that can actually influence the expertise you want to bring in from a class society onto that project. And the same with flag as well. You know, they are all instigating against the statutory requirements, but some have more expertise, shall we say, in the kind of passenger ship background, so some of their surveyors. Others may have other experience in other areas, which again, when you're looking at these new technologies, they all bring a certain element of asset with them and expertise that will help you steer in which flag and class society you want involved in your project.
And once we've got a vessel in service, people are probably familiar with the fact that we can change flags. Yep. And sometimes decisions are made often made not just from a technical perspective, but there are fiscal elements, there is, you know, kind of domicile and location of the UBO. But what about changing class? Is that possible? Yeah.
So, I mean, you can change class as well as changing flag. A lot of the IACS members will kind of recognize each other's regulations and rules, and they will look at, you can change the class notation, you can change, from one to another. And again, it's a process that it isn't difficult, but again, you need to look at the pros and cons of why you want to do it, the reasons behind it. And again, use someone that has the knowledge, has the contacts to be able to help you through that process to make it a smooth transition.
That's great. Well, thank you, Ben. I really appreciate your time today. If anyone has any questions about the way in which class and flag operate, or indeed choices of class and flag, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. Our contact details are available at the end of this video. And Ben, thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.